62% of women, only 40% keeps a job after 4 years after graduation. Why is that? Is because most of them, they need to choose in between to raise a family or to have a job, because we need to address many things in order to have women having the same situation that men, or the same chances to have both together, family, jobs, and to have to bridge the gap between men and women. The main important is places to take care of the children and also the elders people, because if not, women need to take partial time jobs in order to spend a lot of time in their houses looking after the families or their elders. So W20 was a wonderful experience to know that, and to realize how much we need to do to change the reality of the women nowadays.
Mm. Yeah, and this topic you're illuminating, it actually is really especially apparent this year during COVID, women taking on more in the household and things of that nature. So it's really fascinating to learn about. So my next question for you is, as a former member of Congress and president of Wines of Argentina, what is your perspective on women leading political action and global thought in today's workforce beyond their core business?
Okay. I think to be part of the Congress or to be involved in politics is very important for all the people, because you can realize after being part, you can realize why many things happens in the countries, because politics is not easy task. Politics alongside the political organization for companies or alongside the politics in the country's organization. We need to address more women being part of the politics in both sides, because women has a more holistic overview about their responsibility, usually are more worried about what happens with the people, what happens with the environment, what happens with the nature. So we like to take care of our environment, to be sustainable, to be in fact, we are more honest than men in politics, and yes, it's proven. So United Nations has a lot of studies about that. And it's important to have more women in the workforce, in the politics, and also in the companies. When I told you about the women's graduated and women's working in the workforce, we need more women involved, because only 3 to 5% of women are in the CEOs, CFOs positions. Only that is very, very low participation. And it's proven when you have more women involved in politics, in the economical organization for companies, or in the boards, there is a better profits in the companies. There is more loyalty in between employees. There is less change in between the people. So it's a more sustainable company, much more sustainable environment and company. So it's very, very important to have more women trying to get on board all of this organization, to leave the comfort zone. But to do that, to have that happening, we need more. As again, I very insisting in this point. The care center is very important all over the world, because this is a claim from the first world country, talking about Canada, United States, Sweden, Switzerland, all those countries. Women are claiming for more care centers for their family. And also to balance the situation, to balance the field. And I think the pandemic shows this is possible, because people prove they can work from their homes with the same efficiency, with the same dedication, and with the same profitability for everybody. So I think there is lots of things to do, and more. We need more women involved, taking the challenge to be involved in the workforce and also in politics, and trying to cross the glass ceiling.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I hear about that all the time, that women are slightly more intuitive and emotionally in touch.
Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
it helps retain staff and quality of life for the employees. And yeah, I'm excited to hear more from the whole group about how this year's changed their viewpoint on work-life balance and things of that nature. So,
Yes, that's right.
great point, Susanna.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
Sure. And so let's go to Anna, your daughter. Anna, what have you learned about working alongside your mother, and how is that influencing how you manage your professional life with your own demands as a mother?
Hi, Jackie. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. Oh, you have addressed such a difficult question, the issue about work-life balance. But for sure, I have learned so many things from my mother. I have to say that most of them, I've learned them through example, just seeing her manage herself in life and in work. One of them, and I think you can apply them to both business and family, is that she has one saying that says things are done well or not done at all, but at the same time, she says that perfect is synonym of impossible. So some point in the middle, you need to not paralyze yourself in analysis and execute. And execution sometimes is even more important than planning. And then you can learn by doing, and then you can make it better in the process. And I think that helps and applies from the winery and even to manage your own home, you know. Another thing I've taken from her, and even if you want to raise your own family, that you need to build teams. We really believe in high performance teams. We believe in people. We think they are crucial and they help us so much. And through choosing people, and here again, I can say this from choosing a nanny for my kids or for choosing someone for my team at the winery, values, to share values is even more important than experience. They can learn afterwards a lot of things in the job, but they cannot learn the values they come from, or you need to share the same type of vision about life and values itself. Also, she always talks about cheap, sometimes it's even more expensive. And that also applies from clothes to your kids to dry goods to the winery, you know, right. All the same. It's very basic, but very important, you know. We know that quality for us is everything in the winery, and that quality is our best marketing. So every decision taking in the winery is taking into account our north of quality. Finally, about trying to make my balance in life. I've seen firsthand also the cost of all the success. So I honestly trying to balance my life a little bit better. She traveled so much when I was young. I honestly don't have regrets. However, she was always she has always found a way to make herself present, even though she was 12-hour difference. But I do want to be a little bit nearer my family, so trying to look how to do that, which is not easy with all the responsibilities. But
right. I love what you said about that your mother said that perfect is a synonym for impossible. Kind of reminds me of the question we always get asked, which is, can we have it all? Like, can women have it all? And it's a question that men don't really get asked as often, but we get asked it all the time. And it's really, like you're saying, kind of impossible. So How do we?
I actually read a book this quarantine about that it's called The Paradox of Choice. And it's, if you want to be maximizer in everything, honestly, you cannot. So you have to choose where you want to be a maximizer. So in some parts of your life, you have to be good enough. And that's to understand that and start applying it for women that I think by gender, we are kind of perfectionists and we want everything at work, at home, with our kids. Well, sometimes we need to do good enough, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that brings me to my next question for you, which is specific to women in the industry. How have conditions for women changed in Argentina? Are there more opportunities for women in wine now as opposed to earlier in your career?
Yeah, so I think this is even a better question, a question for my mother, because she honestly had to do her early career 40 years ago as the first female winemaker in a very men-dominated industry. She even began in Salta province, which is northern of Argentina, which even nowadays is a place that is very traditional, let's say, in their beliefs. However, I can speak of my experience in the last 10 years. I honestly believe there are more opportunities. You see more and more in the wine industry, winemakers, women winemakers in Argentina. There are a lot of them, a lot of agronomist engineers as well. And we have a very nice example in the winery. We honestly do not push ourselves into objectives of this, but we do have women at the board, as managers, as production managers, dressing the wine, in the lab, hospitality, marketing. We do have women everywhere, as well as men, of course. We just seek for professional and for talented professionals, not regardless their gender. And when we see the numbers, we are about half and half. So I do believe there are more opportunities. You still don't see that much as successful or that have achieved that much as, for example, my mother with her whole career. But I think there's those are things we'll still we will see that in the near future because they are young and they are doing their careers as we speak, you know?
Right, exactly. Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Anna and Susanna, for your answers. They're really enlightening. And now let's shift gears from Argentina to California, but we'll begin with a wine family that has its roots in Europe. Wine growing that dates back to the 17th century, the Torres family. Marimar, with your involvement in both the old and new worlds of wine, I'd love to start by asking you about your experiences. Welcome to both you and Christina.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So after working for the Spain-based family business for many years and promoting those wines around the globe as the export director, you eventually settled in California and then sought to create your own wine brand and estate vineyards in Sonoma County. What inspired you to shift away from the Spanish portfolio and instead plant your own vineyards and develop Marimar Estate?
Well, you see, I came to live here in 1975. And in Spain at that time was under Franco. I came here, the dictator of the Grand Spain, for 30 years. So I came here within 20 days before Franco's death. So it was, I was lucky enough that I fell in love with an American who lived in San Francisco. And that was, you know, a very good excuse to leave. I mean, in Spain, those days, women were second-class citizens, okay? It just, you know, it was so different from today's Spain. So I went to San Francisco for the first time in 1973, okay, selling the Spanish wines. And I fell in love. It was spring, and it was, you know, just beautiful. I had a few friends there, and then I met the man that I eventually married.
And it was San Francisco in the 70s.
Exactly. Imagine that.
Compare that to Spain under Franco.
Exactly. I fell in love, really. And I had a few friends. And so I met the man that I eventually married. My father, of course, was not very happy because, you know, like any good father in those days, what you wanted for your daughter was to marry a man with a lot of money so that she would have an easy life. And, you know, you know, preferably marquis and, you know, in the wine business.
Yeah.
He was a restaurant and wine critic. So that really was wonderful. I mean, my father predicted that it would last a year. It lasted 4, okay? So you know, what can I say?
Pretty good. Very good.
Yeah. Those years, we really, traveled all over, France, California, Germany, and we visited wineries, we visited wonderful restaurants. So that's where my love, the idea of having a vineyard was born there.
Mm.
And then when we got divorced, I convinced my father to invest in California. So it was not a big investment, okay, because we were not very wealthy at that time. But it was a 56-acre property that was beautiful, and it was cleared for planting in vineyards. And I started planting the vineyard in 1986. So I
Wow.
don't have time to tell you everything that happened since, during that time, but let it just stay with the fact that I just, loved the idea of having a vineyard. And then finally I was able to, through my mother, convince the family to have a winery here. And eventually I was able to buy out my brothers. And now this project is entirely my daughter and mine.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's sort of like we were saying before, that female intuition, you just knew. You fell in love with California and you just knew that it was going to work out there. So that's great.
We're really like a fish in water. It was the opportunities here, you just blossomed, and it was really a completely different world.
I remember my aunt telling me that, I had blossomed in California. I was very, very lucky.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so what advice would you give younger generations starting to work in their family businesses?
Well, I love that saying, find a job that you love and you will never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And
I love that too.
Besides that, you have to embrace challenge. You have to seize it, to grab challenge. But that comes because when I lived in Spain, all were things that I couldn't do. My two brothers went skiing. I did not. They were over. Well, one of them is still alive, and they would go play golf. I would have to stay with a nanny. My father would start training my brother Miguel, who is today the head of the company, and in the summertime he would take him to the winery, and I would have to stay home and play with dolls. And I remember thinking, I wish I could go, but I totally accepted the fact that it was not possible. Okay, so but little by little, it's like they kept telling me that I couldn't do that. So I started to embrace the idea of, what do you mean I can't? I'm going to show you, right? So you have to kind of, I have a wonderful quote here that I thought I'd selected. The most essential factor is persistence, the determination never to allow your energy or enthusiasm to be dampened by the discouragement that must inevitably come. And
that's wonderful.
Mistakes are what make you stronger, and that's how you learn.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Thank you. And I'm sure that resonates with you as well, Christina, since you learned from your mother quite a bit.
That is true. Yeah. My mom raised me on her own. And so I've been learning the business by her side from the first day, from day one.
Yeah.
Right.
I kept thinking that Christina would not want to get into the business because she saw me working so hard, but surprisingly, yeah, she did.
Yeah, as someone who works at their family business as well, you love it already because you grow up in it, so it's easy in a way, like you were saying, you don't work a day in your life if you love what you're doing. So it's easy to feel passionate about your own family's business in a way. So that brings me to you, Christina. Before joining the family business, you held positions and gained experience at various wine businesses around the globe. What did those opportunities provide you that you might not have gained by working exclusively for your family business?
So it was really, it was always clear to me that I wanted to get another perspective and really, really put things in context. So for me, it was a matter of learning about even other industries. I spent 2 years in fashion and other cultures, and really having the opportunity to get my feet wet and not work for the family right away. It was an opportunity to be another member of the team. It is different to being a member of the family, working in the family business. And so that was really important to me, to get get these other perspectives, learn from other businesses. So I spent a few years working in the UK for John E. Fells, a wine importer and distributor. And I thought I knew the life of a sales rep, but you don't really know until you actually are hitting the pavement. It was a really, really valuable experience getting out there and visiting customers.
Remember that time I was in London visiting? She said, Mom, come with me. We're going to visit customers.
Yeah.
So we went to that restaurant.
Yeah.
And
L'escargot in Soho.
We were kept waiting for half an hour. And then
Mom was not pleased.
The buyer said, no, she couldn't see us. What? Do you know who I am?
I actually know that all too well. My husband's a sales rep, so I hear those stories all the time. Yeah,
exactly. It was really a matter of getting another perspective, getting my feet wet. Had a fantastic experience as well with Jackson Family Wines, working primarily on their brand marketing teams, and learning how they treat brands, and what is their approach to marketing and sales strategy. So I'm so grateful for those experiences.
And so Jackson Family, that brings me to my next question. They're a wonderful company, family business as well. So Torres is known for being forward-thinking and environmentally conscious winemaking company. And you also personally worked on the development of the International Wineries for Climate Action Association, which was founded in partnership with Jackson Family Wines. Can you talk a bit about the driving force in spearheading this association's foundation and what it means to you and the winemaking industry at large today?
Absolutely. So it was really, it was kismet in a sense. I was hearing a lot. So my uncle, Miguel, Torres, has been leading the charge in the wine industry, talking about the importance of decreasing our carbon footprint for over 10 years now. And I was hearing I had just done a talk on his behalf about carbon capture and reutilization. And I was hearing about this at Jackson Family Wines. And I said, you know what, we have to put our teams in touch and start a conversation. And this conversation evolved and we said, well, are we going to do a seminar, a conference? What can we really do to come together and bring about change in the wine industry? Ultimately, we launched International Wineries for Climate Action. This was just about 2 years ago. And the idea behind International Wineries for Climate Action is really having ambitious criteria for membership. So it's really, it is not, it is, you really have to demonstrate your commitment to decreasing your carbon footprint. So key criteria are at least 20% on-site renewable energy, at least a 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions already demonstrated from a baseline. And then 50% reduction by 2030, a commitment to decrease carbon emissions by at least 50%, and by 2050 to be climate positive.
Wow.
So really, this is an opportunity for wineries and to come together in the industry and to commit to taking action. Really, the more of us that come together, the louder our voice is. And it's also an opportunity for us, there's a space for collaboration, really, and sharing best practices on how to mitigate the impact of climate.
And you already have several members, right?
Right. So
you have right now.
So we have 9 that are very close. They're checking the boxes, meeting the membership criteria, and it's so exciting. And it really is, in the wine industry, we are very uniquely positioned. The vineyard and the wine industry is almost like the canary in the coal mine, because our vineyard data in terms of the climate, the impact of climate change on agriculture, our vineyard data of harvest going back like 100 years, what other industry has that? And so we can we can see how that affects the quality and the style of the wines that we make from year to year. And we also have really extensive data on how those wines have evolved. So
we have wineries from California already joining, right?
Yeah. So it's really, the wine industry is uniquely positioned to be a leader in this movement, and this bringing other players together to make change and really decrease our carbon footprint.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love that you have so many members already. And I didn't even think about that you can look at all the trends from the years going back. And we're also uniquely set up to make it look cool in a way. Like the wine brand has a bit of a je ne sais quoi associated with it. So I think that we're uniquely set up to make it a trend for all businesses, all industries, really. So bravo to you and the team.
Thank you. And for anyone who'd like to learn more, go to iwcawine.org.
Awesome.
National Wineries for Climate Action. I like the name.
Thank you both. Thank you both for speaking with us today. And now finally, we'll dive into our discussion with the Wendy women. Their family roots and family vines have always been firmly in the United States. And we'll start with you, Carolyn. You were the first female CEO and chairman of the board of the company in its 138-year history. How do you think your leadership style and insight have changed the way the company does business? And what excites you most about the future with other women at the company in positions of leadership?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Jackie, and everybody else. This has been really fascinating to listen to, and how fun to get together on International Women's Day. So thank you. And I guess, how did my style and my insights change things here at Wendy when I became CEO? I would say it was probably even before that, just working with my brothers. I came from the marketing side of the company, the sales and marketing side. And so I think the greatest impact was really that evolution from being a fourth generation farming vineyard wine production business to be more of a marketing led company. And so and I'm excited to have Allie on board, because she's going to be this champion that is going to continue to cultivate our portfolio of brands and drive value creation in those brands and a consumer reason for being in those brands. Of course, our namesake brand is still Wendy Vineyards, and that is the foundation of what we do every day. But I think it's exciting for us to be able to continue to build on our offerings. I think some of the other things we've done from a marketing-led business is to build our international presence. And then again, when I started in the business in the 1970s, there wasn't D2C and e-commerce. So that's been a huge change, and much more recently. Then I'd say the second thing as a leadership style was really defining our mission, vision, and values, which really starts as the core base of our family values, which are respect, integrity, sustainability, and excellence. And so knowing what those core values are, that's the foundation of what we do every day, and how our employees and our Wendy family team come to work. And so then it was really, so what is that mission? We create and deliver outstanding wines and wine country experiences. We had to think about, why do we come to work every day, and what do we want to create? And so it's outstanding wines, right? And wine country experiences, bringing people to wine and to enjoy wine. And so lastly, why is that important? Because we hope to inspire people to make time for what matters. And that's, enjoying a talk with you all today matters, right? Sitting at the dinner table with a glass of wine, or having a conversation with a good friend and opening a bottle of wine. So those are some of the things I think I brought, was bringing context to what we do as a family business. And then along with that, certainly things in terms of modernization of processes and systems. When you go from a smaller business to all of the things that we introduced, from our restaurant to additional tasting rooms, to a catering business on property and having a Greg Norman design golf course, all these experiences to bring people into connection with wine, you need the back of house. So there's a lot of things I think my leadership style brought to the business, and it never ceases to amaze me, all the things you have to continue to do. But so what excites me most about the future with other women at the company in positions of leadership, I think I had that opportunity to be really entrepreneurial and to create these new ways to grow our business. But we have a number of women leaders in our company now, and I've heard that other family businesses say the same thing, from winemaking to viticulture to supply chaining to human resources and marketing. I mean, there's just a wave of the future here, and these women are bringing new ideas to the forefront that will continue to build on our 138 years as a family-owned business. So, you know, they say the sky's the limit. I think this new group of women leaders, this next generation, there is no limit. So it's pretty exciting.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think what I'm hearing a lot of in what you've described that you've been able to make changes on is creating almost like a universe, a lifestyle around the brand. And it reminds me of what Susanna said earlier about the female look being very holistic. And that kind of is what you're describing, and something that it sounds like the next generation is going to be building on as well, which is incredible. The core values speak to that especially. So really, bravo. And you've said that you're in a relationship-based business in the past. As such, it's important to have visible family leaders who are devoted for the long run. How have you seen this work in practice? And can you share an example with us of the value and application of multiple generational relationships?
Well, I would say that I experienced it very quickly and early on in my career. And that was because, and it was brought on just because my father, Carl, passed away or died suddenly in 1977. And so my two brothers and I owned the winery, right? And we had to connect with our distributors, our retail partners, our restaurant accounts, our importers, people we grew grapes for, people we sold wine to, people we made wine for. And the idea of wanting to ensure them that there was still going to be the consistency and quality, even though you had these new young bucks in the business. We wanted to make sure that we, established our commitment to continue to do the great quality things that the generations before us had done. And I think that is really about the relationships and making sure that they could trust us and that they knew we had the integrity that my father and grandfather had in building their business with their industry peers. So an example I would say is just in my 20s, trying to bridge from my father's generation of business leaders that he knew and had helped grow our business, knowing them, but then establishing my own generation of people that I grew up with in the industry. And today, Christina was saying she'd done some work lists and understood what it was to carry a bag. I did a lot of that too in different markets. And with many of the leaders of our distributor partners today, like Brad Vassar or Steve Harden at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, or Tom Cole at RNDC, or Angie Packer and Brad Johnson at Tryon Distributing, or the Millers at Heidelberg, actually working with them and kind of growing up with them. So that was my generation of relationships. And I think what's going to be important and how that applies to the next generation is we are getting older and there are new leaders coming up, right? And so they're starting to, Allie, Nikki, Jordan, Carl, all the Winties are going to have to connect with that next generation of leaders. And I think when you look at generational businesses, that's important. It's that whole new emerging leader set that they'll be able to build their relationships with and keep our brand's legacy and presence, top of mind with them. And I'm sure Allie can speak to how she's been able to connect and maintain relationships during the pandemic, which was a whole new challenge, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Well, that's great advice. Thank you. And there's something about the wine industry that just feels familial, and there's so many businesses like that. So I think it's excellent advice on how to maintain those relationships over the years to come. So thank you, Carolyn. Allie, we're over to you. How do you interact with your Aunt Carolyn in terms of knowledge exchange, and how do you keep an expanding family business with so many experienced and knowledgeable members nimble and open to new ideas?
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Fun to be here with you and everybody else. Thanks for joining in. I think from early on, I have recognized that I have an incredible mentor in my aunt. Someone that I have truly looked up to from day one. And I think what I try to do with her when it comes to information and knowledge share is listen a lot, ask a lot of questions, and really just recognize that I could soak up some really valuable education. I mean, Carolyn was a history major, and just like my dad, they are full of stories. And I think that's something that's very important that I certainly want to carry on and be able to continue to share those really deep personal stories. And then from how do we stay nimble? I think, and open to new ideas is we, at the end of the day, we're a family. And I think that's the benefit, is that we are a really tight-knit unit. We've all grew up close to each other, spent holidays, birthdays, everything with each other. I would say my cousin Carl and my cousin Christine and cousin Bucky, they're almost more like siblings versus a distant cousin. So we have that to our benefit. But I think also, our family recognizes hard work, and they certainly challenge us to it. And we don't, just come in after college thinking that we're all gonna get a job here. We truly have to earn it. And I think we, encourage each family member, especially in my generation, it was a little different for the fourth generation, to go out and get their own experience for, at a minimum of 5 years. And we've all kind of done something like that. Some of us have done longer. I did. Some of us came right back at 5 years, but, from my cousin Carl working in different appellations in different countries in winemaking. My sister Nikki managed viticulture at Huneeus. My sister Jordan worked for the state of California in education. My cousin Christine worked for Gallo. My cousin Bucky right now works for Southern Wines and Spirits. And I worked for Constellation Brands for a long time, and I was in a different industry before that. So I think ultimately what I'm trying to say is it boils down to, we all have expertise in our own, pockets of where we contribute to the organization. And because we're this tight-knit family unit, we really trust each other. And there is an underlying just respect that for the expertise and for the experience and, the knowledge that everyone brings to their own area, that makes it really easy when somebody has a good idea. And we all have tons of passion, right? We're super passionate people. If you've ever met my dad, Phil, passion's just dripping off the man. We've all kind of gotten that from our parents. And so I think with that passion, respect for each other, excitement to grow our business, what Carolyn was just saying, I always laugh that to me, our company is a 138-year-old startup. We have such a long runway to go. It's really incredible. And so I think we all have that feeling. And so we're all quick to make decisions because we trust each other and we respect where the ideas are coming from.
Well, that's great. And what's interesting is what you're describing in your family is so similar to the core values that Carolyn mentioned. They're almost like your family values in a way.
Absolutely, they are. I think that's really how our company values came to be. And I think I saw a comment pop up that, working at Wendy is a true family environment. And I think that's what we try to make it be. We want everyone to feel like they're a part of the family. That's the benefit of working for a family company.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that brings me to my next question for you. Your family company has had a solid and storied track record with the 3-tier system in the US, which has been fundamentally changed with the COVID crisis. How have you innovated in terms of sales during lockdown?
Yeah, my goodness, what a year. I look back at 2020 and I'm proud of all the creativity and innovation that came out of 2020. I think it was a really fun year to stretch ourselves and see what's possible. Us marketers, we like to plan a year ahead. So imagine come spring, you're ready to kick off all your programs and the whole world turns upside down. You know, we had to change everything that we were doing. And it certainly was an all hands on deck situation. You know, I think what we did benefit from having a strong retail presence because that's where consumers were shopping. I mean, we all know we saw the load in going on, and they really went back to tried and true brands. And, you know, we've certainly been around the block for a little while. So I think we did see more people probably reacquaint themselves with Wendy Vineyard's brand than they have in a while, which was exciting to see. And, you know, as Carolyn mentioned, we have D2C e-commerce kind of in-house team, and we'd already been working on that for a couple years. So we were in a really prime position to kind of leverage our email marketing, leverage kind of, you know, getting the word out about Wendy on Facebook and social media. And I think we really did turn to digital, but what we did is we stopped ourselves and we said, what is happening to the consumer right now? Where are they? How are they drinking their wines? And what do they need from us? Like, how can we make what they're going through better? Kind of recognizing the state that consumers were in. And so we tried to be creative and fun. I mean, my sister and I stood up a weekly Wine Wednesday, where I like to joke that I was a part-time comedian, because really what we found is that everybody really just enjoyed watching the two of us kind of be silly and sisters versus the, you know, wine tasting that we thought they would exactly want. So there was a lot, I think, that we learned in how to connect with our customers really and stay top of mind and show them a different side of us. We also launched a virtual wine tasting through Amazon Alexa and Google Home. So people could go to the grocery store or order on Instacart or Drizzly, or, you know, however they're ordering their groceries or their wine, their beverages, and they could buy our products and they could have a wine tasting experience in the comfort of their living room, in their sweats if they wanted, because as we know, a lot of people were in sweats last year. So I think it was a fun year to kind of say, you know, what can we do different that we haven't done before? And how can we connect with consumers? And how can we really tell our brand story, our 138-year-old brand story, in a different way? And I think we had a lot of fun doing that last year.
That's great. I personally loved watching your videos on social media, Allie. So bravo for making lemonade out of lemons for a year.
It was fun. It was a bunch of fun.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the entire group of women here. It's such a storied group of families and inspiring women. So I'd like to actually dive into some questions now. We've gotten some wonderful ones for specific folks. So I'll start for Marmar. What are the great challenges in Sonoma today in the wine industry? And what was the most difficult part of starting a winery in California? Can you hear me?
Marmar, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I was saying the most difficult part was convincing my family that it was a good idea. But yeah, but you know, I went to UC Davis in 1988 for a year to learn, of course, what I had not in Spain about a knowledge in food culture. And so when we were supposed to build a winery in 1988, but then when my brother told me that, you know, there was not enough money, we couldn't do it. He said, well, you could make a wine without a winery, right? And I always listened to my brother. Okay, if anybody sees him, just let him know. And so I ended up making the 1989 Chardonnay, and it was a really a good wine. And I was lucky enough that I released it just before my father died in May of 1981. 91. And so I took that bottle to Spain under my arm and had him taste it, and he said it was the best white wine he had ever tasted.
Wow.
Not prone to praise, okay? So I came to my mother and said, Margarita, we must have a winery in California. So when he died, I went to my mother and I said, Mom, you remember, right? The dad said we had to have a winery in California. So she really was my great supporter and taught my brothers into, all of us getting into that.
Oh, that's great. And while I have the Torres ladies, I have a question for you, Christina. Does the International Wineries for Climate Action Association provide funds to small wineries to invest in sustainability?
So there is not quite in that way, but we are working on developing essentially different modified criteria for smaller wineries to be able to meet the requirements, because basically, as it stands now, you have to do an annual greenhouse gas inventory by a, well, most of us, I don't think any winery knows how to do that on their own. And not on top of that, it needs to be third-party audited. So we are simplifying and streamlining it a bit for smaller wineries below a certain case production, so that it is much more attainable. At the end of the day, we want wineries to be spending money on actually making improvements and decreasing our carbon footprint, and not on generating that greenhouse gas inventory and having it third-party
Like this year,
audited.
we're spending our money on an electric tractor.
Yeah, Monarch tractors,
Yes,
they're fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so cool. Huh. Maybe
Yeah.
Tessa can make a tractor for us soon. That would be
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you both. My next question is for Carolyn. Slightly controversial. Carolyn, do you feel that you had to work harder and longer than your other male family members to provide yourself and get where you are today? To prove yourself, sorry. Prove yourself where you are.
I would say that my two brothers, my partners in crime here, work really hard and have always worked extremely hard. I don't think we ever measured ourselves by, our work ethic per se. And I would also throw them a couple of bones in terms of, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for them as being champions of me and allowing me to do and grow and, become the leader of this company. So no, I guess is the bottom line. They've been great.
Great. That's a good answer then. So my next question is actually for everybody, but if anybody specifically wants to raise their hand to speak, I think it's really relevant for all of you. I'm sure everybody believes in a work-life balance in some capacity. And if so, what tips have helped you find more balance, especially during the current climate with virtual work being the new normal, especially since we're all home with families, working in family businesses? What have helped you during this time?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, Susanna, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think the new normal gave us really a new perspective in how to work from home. And in my case, for instance, I was traveling almost 180 days per year all over the world, promoting my wines in 5 continents because we export 96% of our production. The new normal gave me the chance to do tasting four times a day with 4 different continents, taking advantage of the time difference. So I was able to do a tasting with China, and then in Europe, and then United States, and finally Brazil, which was the closer to us in timetable. It was impossible in another way. So I'm not saying it's easy, because it was very tiring, but as well, you are in your home, so you don't need to be wearing special shoes that are letting you feel so tired all the time. So you can be a little relaxed in between the different Zooms. So I think today it's more easy to get the balance that in my days when I was traveling so much, and also traveling or working in the winery or in the vineyards. So now I think it's easier than before.
Okay. So maybe we learned something from this year, how to make it.
Yes, of course. A lot.
Anna, do you want to add anything? I know we talked about this previously, how you've been kind of figuring out that balance.
Yes, basically, I think there are some things we have experienced during quarantine that we should keep. We have realized that we don't have to be at the office all day long. You can mix, because in my situation, I'm here in Mendoza, so I work one day from home and at the other day I go to the winery. I really like to meet my teams personally. However, I also like to be able to work focused at home, and maybe I have toddlers as you have, Jackie, and if one of my kids is crying, I can cut 10 minutes, is him up or be with him, and then go back to work, and nothing happens, or you can stop in the middle of the day, have a lunch with your family, and then continue working all afternoon. And you gain one moment of family in the week that before that, it didn't even was in my mind. Like I've worked all day full time from 8 to 5 to 6 to 7. And it was like, it's possible. And things are going on and we are running and we are achieving our goals. So we have changed a little bit the mindset that we can mix a little bit more, at least in my personal experience, that I can mix more family and work and feel a little bit better in that balance,
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I think Marimar's raising her hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking that what I did is to include my daughter in my business life, so that when I would make trips, I would take her with me. And I was fortunate because you were a pretty good girl, and and she kind of would have her books, and she would read a book while we were in a boring lunch, 3-hour lunch with a journalist, right? And
just to clarify, we are talking about when I was a little girl.
yes. I'm talking about when she was 4, 5, 6, and then after she's done with her book, she would just fall asleep, and she loved it. And so if you find a way to make your family part of the work, right, and enjoy it. And I took her to my office and changed her diapers. Like, it's also when you're the boss, you can do whatever you want. So I changed her diapers.
That's true. One of the wonderful benefits. And I too have had similar experiences. I think that's the unique thing about the wine industry is your work is sometimes other people's vacation to be able to go to a winery. So I've been able to travel doing that for work with my family as well. It's a great pleasure.
And you have a newborn, right?
Sorry?
You have a newborn, right?
I do, yes. He hasn't traveled anywhere interesting yet, besides my living room, but I do have a newborn, and a 3-year-old this week. He turns 3.
Congratulations.
So thank you. My next question I'd like to pose to the Wendys from the group. How do you keep your employees and team members motivated during this time when you can't see them as often in person?
I think one of the things when COVID hit, it was, and I'll let Allie pipe in here too, but was really trying to communicate with them as much as possible about what we were doing, trying to be transparent because it was quite unknown, right? Every day was a new day and a new piece of information would come out. So just having that steady, calming, it'll be fine, we're gonna get through this, and not being overly reactive, but being able to communicate and give them as much information as possible, I think was critical. And I think we did that in a very good cadence and got into kind of a weekly, if not more frequent communication with all of our employees. And then I think Allie had some really fun marketing ideas about connecting and how we could gift our employees and keep them involved with things that were going on at the winery.
Yeah, we like put together fun little things because we knew everyone was at home. So what can we, send you new Wendy tumblers that were Yeti, just like the little things, like little delight and surprises, I think, just to make everyone a little bit more comfortable. But, when I think too, to like my immediate team on how do I keep them engaged and motivated, I think a lot of it has to do with kind of what Anna was saying around your values. When everyone kind of can align to your values, that makes it a lot easier and everyone's kind of in the same boat. But then that too, to what Carolyn was saying, like constant communication, because I think what a lot of people felt was missing over the past year was that human connection. And you're not while we're all through the Zoom, you're not getting the same connection as you were when we were seeing each other in the office. So, you know, we do weekly team meetings now to kick off the week. We never used to do that, but it's fun, and we celebrate the wins. So we always talk about the wins from the last week. So we try to keep everyone, you know, in a positive and exciting way. We have people kind of share projects they're working on, or if they went to a course, an educational seminar, they will talk about it. So I think that kind of like group engagement, and when you celebrate the wins, it feels like we're all contributing to positive results. And that keeps everybody motivated. And then, you know, in general, I just try to be as human as possible through the Zoom. You know, if I'm having not my best day, I'll probably tell you. Or if I'm having a fun day, or if I feel silly and I just want to kind of joke a little bit, I think that's where my team and I all just can, I don't know, enjoy each other a little bit. And you get that, what you might get in the office, but it's through Zoom, but it feels good to just be human with each other.
Absolutely. And I actually got really good advice during this situation, which was similar to what you're saying, which is you can't over communicate. You really can't, because everybody feels so isolated. So even if it feels like you're talking so much, it is just the key to transparency and how people feel connected. So I fully hear that. Thank you both. The last question I have from the group is a bit on the lighter side, which I think we can all use something like that, which is, what are you guys drinking? I see Marimar and Christina have a glass. Susanna has a glass. What's in your glass?
She chose that, but she knows it's my favorite wine for, you know, for just any time when you feel like, oh, it's time to drink wine.
We are drinking our La Masia Pinot Noir from our Russian River Valley vineyard, which is my mom's favorite go-to. Her favorite descriptor is that it's a yummy Pinot Noir.
Mm-hmm. Which I know.
Mine is Susanna Balbo Barrel Fermented Torrontés.
Oh, okay.
Cheers.
As you know, I'm pregnant with my third one, so I'm the most boring one drinking water because I'm expecting my third baby.
Congratulations, Anna.
Congrats.
I'm right there. One, I'm not pregnant, but I'm just drinking coffee. I was jealous when I saw the wine.
Ew. I'm not pregnant anymore, so I plan to have wine later, but not yet.
But for us, it's a wine time because it's 7 p.m. So it's good.
Yes.
Of course. Well, any time is Pinot Noir time.
Yeah.
Well, thank
It's
you all
true.
so much for joining today. This was so inspiring. I feel so honored to be among all of you. Such wonderful women in this industry and wonderful families. So thank you all so much. And if there's anything else that you want to say before we go, otherwise, I just want to say Happy International Women's Day and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jackie. Great idea. Cheers for all the women.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
Great to
Thanks,
see you all.
guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Next time in person.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, yes, please. Next time in